The Winchester cracked against Lysandra's cheekbone with a sickening thud, sending her sprawling across the wooden platform of Willow Creek Station. Blood trickled from her split lip as she struggled to rise, her emerald dress torn and dusty from 3 days of brutal treatment at the hands of her captors. "Stay down, you worthless piece of—" Coltrane's boot connected with her ribs before he could finish the curse. The outlaw leader's scarred face twisted with cruel satisfaction as he watched her curl into a protective ball. "Should have kept your mouth shut about the gold, lady." Through swollen eyes, Lysandra glimpsed the other passengers cowering behind overturned benches. The stagecoach robbery had gone wrong when she'd tried to warn the driver about the ambush. Now Coltrane's gang was using her as entertainment while they waited for the next coach. "Please," she whispered, tasting copper. "I told you everything I know, not everything." Coltrane grabbed a fistful of her auburn hair, yanking her head back. "Your daddy's got more than gold hidden in that bank. We know about the words died in his throat as a shadow fell across the station platform. Even Lysandra felt the temperature drop as something massive blocked out the afternoon sun. The outlaw's casual laughter faded to nervous silence. Standing in the doorway was the largest man Lysandra had ever seen. He had to duck to fit through the frame, his broad shoulders nearly spanning the width of the entrance, copper skin stretched over muscles that rippled like those of a mountain cat, and long black hair hung loose around a face that could have been carved from granite. But it was his eyes that made her breath catch dark, as midnight storms, scanning the scene with deadly, calm, "Kia talk," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards. The Comanche words carried weight like a judge's gavel. Coltrane's hand went instinctively to his Colt. "This ain't your business, Redskin. Keep walking." The giant's gaze fixed on Lysandra's battered face, then swept over her torn dress and bleeding wounds. Something dangerous flickered in those midnight eyes when he spoke again. It was in accented English that carried the promise of violence. "You hurt woman. So what if we did?" Coltrane's voice cracked slightly. "She's our prisoner. We'll do what we want with her." The Comanche warrior, for that's what he had to be, Lysandra realized, took a single step forward. The floorboards groaned under his weight. His hand rested casually on the handle of a massive tomahawk hanging from his belt. No more hurt. His eyes never left Coltrane's face. "You go now." 3 of the outlaws had their guns half drawn when their leader held up a restraining hand. Even Coltrane wasn't fool enough to start a gunfight with a Comanche warrior in close quarters. The stories of what they could do with those tomahawks were legend throughout Texas. "Now listen here," Coltrane began. "No," the warrior's voice cut through the air like a blade. He knelt beside Lysandra, his massive frame surprisingly gentle as he examined her injuries. Up close, she could smell leather and sage smoke, see the intricate beadwork on his buckskin shirt. "You hurt her bad." When he looked up at Coltrane again, something primal and terrifying had awakened in his expression. "She comes with me now." "Like hell she does." Coltrane's face flushed red beneath his week-old stubble. "That woman owes us information, and we ain't leaving without it." The Comanche warrior, who moved with the fluid grace of a predator, despite his enormous size, carefully helped Lysandra sit up against a wooden post. His touch was surprisingly gentle, calloused fingers barely grazing her bruised skin as he steadied her. "What is your name, woman?" he asked softly, his accent making the words sound almost musical. "Lysandra," she whispered, surprised by the kindness in his voice. "Lysandra Whitmore. I am Tatana, Thunder Walker." His dark eyes studied her face with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "These men, they take you from your home." She nodded, not trusting her voice. 3 days ago, she'd been helping her father close the bank when Coltrane's gang had burst through the doors. They'd killed the sheriff, ransacked the safe, and taken her when they realized she knew about her father's private business dealings. "Hey!" Coltrane's shout shattered the moment. "Don't you go getting cozy with our prize, savage. She's coming back to camp with us, and that's final." Thunder Walker rose to his full, imposing height. Standing, he was easily 7 feet tall, his presence filling the small station like a gathering storm. "You have hurt her enough. She goes no more with you." "The hell she doesn't." Coltrane drew his Colt, and 2 of his men followed suit. "That Little lady is our ticket to the biggest score this side of the Mississippi. Her daddy's been hiding government gold shipments, and she's gonna tell us where." Lysandra's heart sank. It was true, her father had been secretly storing federal gold, meant for the Indian reservations, skimming a percentage for himself. She'd discovered his scheme by accident and confronted him just before the robbery. Now that knowledge might get this brave warrior killed. "I already told them everything," she said quickly, meeting Thunder Walker's eyes. "There's nothing more. They can learn from me. Please, just let them take me. I don't want you hurt because of my troubles." Something shifted in Thunder Walker's expression: surprise, perhaps even respect. He studied her for a long moment, as if seeing something he hadn't expected. "You protect me," he said, "and it wasn't a question. Even though you are hurt, you think of my safety." Of course, the words came out stronger than she felt. "You showed me kindness when no one else would." Thunder Walker's lips curved in what might have been the beginning of a smile. Then he turned back to Coltrane, and the warmth vanished from his features like a snuffed candle. "She told you what you want. You have no more need of her. That's where you're wrong, Chief." Coltrane's gun remained trained on the warrior's chest. "See, we figure her daddy might pay real nice for her safe return. Double the profit that way." "Then you figure wrong." Thunder Walker's hand dropped to his tomahawk. "The woman stays with me." The tension in the room stretched taut as a bowstring. Lysandra could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. 3 armed men against one, even if that one was built like a force of nature. But as she watched Thunder Walker settle into a fighting stance balanced on the balls of his feet, every muscle coiled for action, she realized the outlaws might be the ones at a disadvantage. There was something ancient and deadly in the way he moved, like watching a wolf prepare to strike. "Last warning, Redskin," Coltrane snarled. "Walk away now, or we'll put you down like the animal you are." Thunder Walker's response was to draw his tomahawk in one fluid motion. The polished steel caught the afternoon light as he spoke for words that would change everything. "You're coming with me." But he wasn't looking at the outlaws when he said it. His midnight eyes were fixed on Lysandra, and in them she saw something that made her breath catch, not just protection, but possibility. The first shot came from Coltrane's Colt, the bullet whizzing past Thunder Walker's ear to splinter the wooden wall behind him. But the Comanche warrior was already moving, his massive frame dropping into a crouch as his tomahawk spun through the air. Like a silver Death Star, the blade buried itself in the shoulder of the gunman to Coltrane's left, sending him screaming to the floor as his weapon clattered away before the man's cry had faded. Thunder Walker was across the room, moving with impossible speed for someone his size. "Shoot him! Shoot him!" Coltrane bellowed, but his remaining man was already backing toward the door, face pale with terror. Thunder Walker's fist connected with Coltrane's jaw with the sound of splitting wood. The outlaw leader flew backward, crashing through a wooden chair before hitting the wall hard enough to rattle the entire building. His Colt skittered across the floor, coming to rest near Lysandra's feet. She grabbed the weapon with shaking hands, though she'd never fired a gun in her life. The remaining outlaw was almost at the door when Thunder Walker's voice stopped him cold. "Kia, go, take your wounded. Tell others what you saw here." The man didn't need to be told twice. He hauled his groaning companion to his feet and half-carried, half-dragged him toward the door. Coltrane struggled to rise, blood streaming from his nose, murder in his eyes. "This ain't over, savage," he spat. "That woman's worth a fortune, and I'll be back with 20 men to collect her." Thunder Walker retrieved his tomahawk from the wounded man's shoulder, wiping the blade clean on the outlaw's shirt with deliberate slowness. "You come back, you die. All of you die." The simple certainty in his voice sent chills down Lysandra's spine. This wasn't a threat, it was a promise. After the outlaws had stumbled away, cursing and bleeding, an odd silence fell over the station. Thunder Walker turned his attention back to Lysandra, his fierce expression softening as he knelt beside her. "You are safe now," he said, gently, taking the Colt from her trembling hands. "They will not return today, but they will return." She whispered, "He meant what he said about bringing more men, and my father." She closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the weight of her situation. "Even if I go home, there will be federal marshals waiting. They'll hang him for theft, and me as an accomplice." Thunder Walker was quiet for a long moment, studying her bruised face with those penetrating dark eyes. When he finally spoke, his words carried the weight of irrevocable decision. "Then you do not go home." Lysandra's eyes flew open. "What? You come with me, to my people." He gestured toward the vast wilderness. "Beyond the station walls. Coltrane cannot follow where we go. Neither can your marshals, but I." She struggled to form coherent thoughts. I couldn't survive in the wilderness. I don't know anything about living off the land, or you'll learn." His tone brooked no argument. "And I will teach you." "Why?" The question burst out of her before she could stop it. "Why would you do this for a stranger? You don't even know me." Thunder Walker's expression grew thoughtful. "In our tradition, when someone saves a life, they become responsible for that life. You tried to protect me from harm, even when you were hurt and afraid. This makes a bond between us." "But I didn't save your life," she protested. "You saved mine." "No." His lips curved in that almost smile again. "You saved your own. You could have stayed silent, let me fight without warning me of the danger. Instead, you risked more pain to help someone who was helping you. This takes courage." Lysandra felt heat rise in her cheeks at the unexpected praise. No one had ever called her courageous before. Her father saw her as a burden. Society viewed her as a commodity to be married off to the highest bidder. But this fierce warrior spoke of her as if she had value beyond her family name or potential dowry. "Where would we go?" she asked softly. "North, into the sacred mountains where the wind sings old songs and the streams run clear." His voice took on an almost hypnotic quality. "My village is hidden there, protected by canyon walls and ancient magic. You would be safe, Lysandra Whitmore, and free, free." The word hit her like a physical blow. When had she ever been truly free? The sun was setting like a dying ember over the Texas plains when Thunder Walker helped Lysandra onto his massive war horse, a magnificent black stallion with intelligent eyes and a coat that gleamed like polished obsidian. The animal stood perfectly still as she settled behind the warrior, though she could feel the coiled power in its muscles. "His name is Nokomis Nightwind," Thunder Walker explained, swinging up in front of her with fluid ease. "He has carried me through many battles. He will carry us both to safety." Lysandra had never ridden astride before, and the sensation of sitting so close to Thunder Walker, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his broad back, to catch the scent of sage and leather that seemed to cling to his skin, made her pulse race in ways that had nothing to do with fear. They'd spent the remaining daylight gathering supplies from the abandoned station. Thunder Walker had found jerky, hardtack, and a canteen in the station master's quarters, while Lysandra had located a heavy woolen cloak that would provide warmth during the cold desert nights. More importantly, the warrior had discovered a cache of ammunition and a spare rifle, which he'd strapped to Nokomis's saddle with practiced efficiency. "Hold tight," he warned as they began to move. "We ride hard until the moon sets. Coltrane will return with men at first light, and we must be far from here." Lysandra wrapped her arms around his waist, trying to ignore how solid and warm he felt beneath the buckskin shirt. The horse's gait was surprisingly smooth, even at speed, and she found herself relaxing despite the danger behind them. "Tell me about your village," she said after they'd been riding for an hour, her voice barely audible over the thunder of hooves on hard-packed earth. "It is called Patika Hidden Valley," Thunder Walker replied without turning around. "My people have lived there for 7 generations, ever since the white soldiers drove us from our ancestral lands in the south. The entrance is narrow, concealed by fallen rocks that look natural but were placed by our ancestors inside. The valley opens like a flower, with clear springs and grass for the horses. And your people, will they accept me?" She felt his shoulders tense slightly at the question. "Some will welcome you, others," he paused, choosing his words carefully. "Others remember too well what the white soldiers did to our families. They may need time to see that you are different." "Different how?" "You chose to come with me rather than return to your own people. You risked yourself to protect someone who was protecting you. These are actions they will understand, even if they do not immediately trust." They rode in comfortable silence for a while, the rhythmic sound of Nokomis's hooves almost hypnotic in the still night air. Lysandra found herself studying Thunder Walker's profile in the moonlight, the strong line of his jaw, the proud angle of his nose, the way his long hair moved with the motion of their ride. She'd never met anyone like him. The men in her father's world were either cruel like Coltrane, or weak like the bank clerks and merchants who courted her with their eyes fixed on her inheritance rather than her face. But Thunder Walker possessed a strength that went deeper than his impressive physical presence. There was honor in him, and kindness, and something else she couldn't quite name, but that made her feel more alive than she had in years. What about you? She asked suddenly. Do you have family in the village, a wife? The question surprised her with its boldness, but she found she desperately wanted to know the answer. No wife, he said simply. I had a woman once, but she died 3 winters ago. Spotted fever. His voice carried old pain, carefully controlled. Her name was Ayanna Eternal Blossom. She was the light of my heart. I'm sorry, Lysandra whispered, meaning it. That must have been terrible. It was. For a long time, I thought my heart had died with her. I became a warrior who fought without caring if he lived or died. My people call such men ghost walkers, those who are alive, but not truly living. And now, Thunder Walker was quiet for so long that she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, almost wondering. Now I think perhaps the heart can heal if it finds the right medicine. Something in his tone made Lysandra's breath catch. She found herself holding him a little tighter as Nokomis carried them through the star-filled night, toward a future she could never have imagined. Dawn broke over the red canyon walls like liquid gold, painting the hidden valley in shades of amber and rose. Lysandra gasped as they emerged from the narrow passage between towering stone sentinels, the landscape opening before them like something from a fever dream. The valley was larger than she'd imagined, easily 5 miles across, with a clear stream winding through its heart like a silver ribbon. Cottonwoods and willows grew thick along the water's edge, their leaves whispering secrets in the morning breeze. Beyond the trees, she could see the neat circles of teepees arranged in family groups, smoke rising from cook fires as the village came to life. Patika, Thunder Walker said softly, and she heard the love in his voice. Home. But as they rode down the gentle slope toward the village, Lysandra became acutely aware of the attention they were drawing. Women looked up from their morning tasks, children stopped their games to stare, and warriors emerged from their lodges with hands resting casually on their weapons. She was the only white face in a sea of copper-skinned people, and the hostility radiating from some of them was almost tangible. Remember what I told you, Thunder Walker murmured. Keep your head high, show no fear. They respect courage above all else. A group of warriors had gathered near the largest teepee in the village center, their faces painted for war despite the early hour. At their head stood a man nearly as tall as Thunder Walker but leaner, with silver threading through his black braids, and scars crossing his weathered cheek. Double quotes tah eaten -na. The scarred warrior called out in Comanche, his voice carrying across the valley like the crack of a whip. Why do you bring the white devil woman to our sacred place? Thunder Walker brought Nokomis to a halt and dismounted with fluid grace. Before helping Lysandra down, she could feel dozens of eyes upon her, measuring, judging, finding her wanting. But she remembered his words and kept her chin raised, meeting their stares with as much dignity as she could muster. I bring no devil, Manasita, Thunder Walker replied in English, his words clearly meant for everyone to hear. I bring a woman who chose honor over safety, who protected someone who was protecting her. She comes seeking sanctuary from those who would do her harm. The scarred warrior Manasita switched to accented English, his tone mocking. And what makes you think this white woman deserves our protection? What has she done for the people except exist? She chose to come with me rather than return to her own kind, even knowing the dangers. Thunder Walker said calmly. She risked herself to warn me of threats when she could have stayed silent. These are not the actions of a devil woman. An elderly woman pushed through the crowd, her gray hair braided with hawk feathers and her dark eyes sharp as obsidian. Despite her age, she moved with the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Enough, she said, her voice carrying despite its softness. "I am Winona, keeper of the old ways, mother to this village. Let me see this woman who has turned our Thunder Walker's head." Lysandra's heart hammered as the elderly woman approached, studying her with eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. Winona walked slowly round her, taking in everything from her torn green dress to the bruises still darkening her face. "You are hurt," Winona observed. "Yes, ma'am," Lysandra replied respectfully. "But I'm healing, and you left your people to come here knowing you might never return." Yes, there was nothing left for me there. Only danger and a life that wasn't really living." Winona nodded slowly, as if this answer satisfied her. "Show me your hands." Confused but obedient, Lysandra held out her hands palm up. The elderly woman examined them carefully, running weathered fingers over the soft skin and manicured nails. "Soft hands," Winona pronounced. "City hands. You have never worked the land, never scraped hides or gathered roots. You know nothing of how to survive in the wilderness." "No, ma'am," Lysandra admitted, her cheeks burning with shame. "But I can learn. I want to learn. Want is easy, doing is hard." Winna's sharp eyes bored into hers. "If you stay here, you will rise before dawn to tend the fires. You will learn to cure meat and prepare medicines from plants. You will scrape hides until your hands bleed and gather roots until your back aches. There will be no servants, no soft beds, no pretty dresses. Can your soft hands do these things?" Lysandra thought of her old life, the suffocating propriety, the endless social calls, her father's schemes, and the constant fear of discovery. Then she looked around the valley, at the clear stream and the proud faces surrounding her, and felt something stir in her chest that might have been hope. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but I'd like the chance to find out for the first time." Winona smiled a small, satisfied expression that transformed her stern features. "This is a good answer. We will see what Thunder Walker's white woman is made of." 3 months had transformed Lysandra Whitmore from a pampered banker's daughter into something altogether different. Her once soft hands were now calloused from scraping hides and digging roots, her pale skin bronzed by the mountain sun. The elegant green dress had long since been replaced by buckskin clothing that Winona had taught her to make herself, each stitch a lesson in patience and pride. But the greatest change was in her eyes, once shadowed with fear and resignation. They now held a spark of fierce independence that grew brighter with each passing day. "Tachua," Winona called out in the pre-dawn darkness, using the Comanche name the village had given her brave heart. "The sun does not wait for sleepy women." Lysandra Tachua rolled out of her sleeping furs with practiced ease, her body automatically beginning the routine she'd learned through countless repetitions. First, stoke the fire and add dried grass to create smoke that would keep the insects away. Then fetch water from the stream, check the meat drying on the racks, and begin preparing the morning meal. She'd learned to love these quiet morning hours, when the valley was still wrapped in silver mist, and the only sounds were the whisper of wind through the cottonwoods and the gentle murmur of the stream. It was a peace she'd never known in her old life, a sense of belonging that went deeper than blood or birth. "Your stitching improves," Winona observed, examining the moccasins Tachua had finished the night before. "Though you still so like a white woman to concerned with making everything perfect instead of making it strong." "I'll remember that," Tachua replied, stirring the pot of stew that would feed a dozen people. Cooking for the extended family group had been one of her biggest challenges, learning not just new ingredients and techniques, but understanding the subtle social dynamics of who ate first, who received the choicest portions, and how food could convey respect, affection, or subtle rebuke. "Will you?" Winona's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Or will you forget again when Thunder Walker brings you another gift and your mind turns to mush?" Like overcooked corn, Tachua felt heat rise in her cheeks. It was true that Thunder Walker had been attentive lately. Small gifts had begun appearing outside her lodge, a perfectly shaped piece of turquoise, eagle feathers arranged in a pattern that caught the morning light, once even a handful of rare white sage that bloomed only in the highest reaches of the mountains. But it was more than gifts. It was the way he found excuses to seek her out during the day, offering to help with tasks that were traditionally women's work. and suffering the gentle mockery of the other warriors with good humor. It was the way his eyes followed her movements during the evening storytelling, warm and protective, and something else that made her pulse quicken whenever she caught him looking. "He's been kind to me," she said carefully, knowing that Winona saw everything that happened in the village. "Kind." Winona snorted with amusement. "Is that what you call it when a man stares at a woman like she holds the sun in her hands?" Before Tachua could respond, a commotion erupted from the village center, shouting voices, the sound of running feet, the distinctive war cry that meant danger approached. Both women dropped what they were doing and rushed toward the sound. Thunder Walker stood in the middle of a crowd of warriors, his face grim as he spoke rapidly in Comanche to Montecito and the other war leaders. Even from a distance, Tachua could see the tension in his massive frame, the way his hand rested on his tomahawk. "What is it?" she asked Winona, dread pooling in her stomach. "Riders approaching the canyon mouth." The elderly woman translated grimly. "Many riders, armed and asking questions about a white woman." Tachua's blood turned to ice. After 3 months of peace, she'd almost allowed herself to believe that Coltrane had given up, that her father's troubles wouldn't follow her into this sacred valley. But she should have known better. Men like Coltrane didn't forget, and they never forgave. Thunder Walker's eyes found hers across the crowd, and she saw her own understanding reflected in his dark gaze. He strode toward her with purposeful steps, his expression set in lines of absolute determination. "How many?" she asked when he reached her side. 20, maybe 25. Well armed and asking the right questions, his voice was calm, but she could hear the underlying steel. "They know you're here. Then I have to leave." The words tore at her heart, but she forced them out anyway. "I won't let my presence bring danger to your people." "No." The single word carried such finality that several nearby warriors turned to stare. "You are one of us now. We protect our own." Thunder Walker, Tachua. He took her hands in his, seemingly oblivious to the watching crowd. "Do you trust me?" She looked into his eyes, those midnight depths that had first shown her kindness, when the world had offered only cruelty, and felt her fears quiet to a whisper. "Yes," she said simply. "I trust you." His smile was fierce and beautiful, like lightning splitting a storm sky. "Then prepare yourself, brave heart. It's time to show these men what happens when they threaten our home." The confrontation came at high noon, when the sun stood directly overhead and the canyon walls threw no shadows to hide behind. Coltrane rode at the head of his enlarged gang, 23 men strong now, their faces hard with the promise of violence and their guns worn low for quick drawing. But they found the narrow canyon mouth blocked by a single figure. Thunder Walker sat motionless on Nokomis, his massive frame silhouetted against the red stone walls like something carved from the living rock itself. His tomahawk hung at his side, but he made no threatening moves as the gang of outlaws drew rein 50 yards away. Well, Coltrane called out, his voice echoing off the canyon walls. "If it ain't our savage friend from the station, still playing protector to damaged goods, I see." Thunder Walker's response was to swing down from his horse with fluid grace, planting his feet wide in the classic warrior's stance. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly across the desert air. "You trespass on sacred ground. Turn back now, and you may yet see another sunrise." Coltrane's laughter was harsh as winter wind. "Sacred ground? This is just another patch of dirt, Redskin. And that woman you're hiding belongs to us. She's got information we need, and we aim to collect. She owes you nothing. Her debts are paid in blood and pain. Not near enough of either," snarled one of Coltrane's lieutenants, a scarred man with dead eyes and a reputation for cruelty. "But we can fix that real quick." 23 hands dropped to gun handles, the metallic whispers of steel leaving leather filling the tense air. Thunder Walker stood perfectly still, seemingly unconcerned by the odds against him. But he wasn't alone. The canyon walls themselves seemed to come alive as Comanche warriors materialized from concealment behind rocks, in shadow-filled crevices, along the narrow ledges that only mountain-born men could navigate. In seconds, Coltrane's gang found themselves surrounded by 30 of the finest warriors the tribe could field, each one armed with rifle, bow, and generations of righteous anger. Sweet Jesus. One of the outlaws breathed, his face going pale, as he counted the weapons trained on them. Montecito stepped into view on a ledge 20 feet above the canyon floor, his scarred face painted for war and a repeating rifle held casually in his hands. You are outnumbered and outgunned, he called down in perfect English. Drop your weapons and ride away, or feed the vultures. The choice is yours. For a moment, the only sound was the whisper of wind through stone. Then Coltrane's face twisted with desperate fury. Like hell, we're backing down. That woman cost us everything, our hideout, our reputation, half our men. We ain't leaving without her blood. His hand flashed toward his Colt, and the canyon exploded into violence. But Thunder Walker was already moving, covering the distance between himself and the outlaws in great bounding strides that ate the ground like a hunting wolf. Coltrane's first shot went wide as the warrior crashed into his horse, sending both rider and animal tumbling to the rocky ground. The battle was brief and decisive. Caught in crossfire from warriors who knew every inch of the terrain, outnumbered and outmaneuvered, Coltrane's gang was cut down in minutes. Some died fighting, others fled screaming into the desert, and a few threw down their weapons in surrender. When the gun smoke cleared, Thunder Walker stood over Coltrane's broken body, the outlaw leader's neck twisted at an impossible angle from his impact with the rocks. The threat that had haunted Tachua for months was finally ended. But for Thunder Walker, the real battle was just beginning. He found her waiting at the village edge, her face pale but resolute, a traveling pack at her feet. No, he said before she could speak. Whatever you're thinking, the answer is no. More will come, she said softly. If not Coltrane's remaining men, then federal marshals looking for my father's accomplice. I won't let my presence bring more danger to your people. Our people, he corrected firmly. You are Tachua now, brave heart of the mountain people. This is your home. But do you love this place? The question stopped her protests cold. Do you love the valley, the clean air, the freedom to be who you truly are instead of who society demands? Yes, she whispered, more than I ever thought possible. Do you love our ways, the honor, the connection to the earth, the bonds that make us strong? Yes, do you? His voice dropped to barely audible, suddenly uncertain. Do you love me? The question hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Tachua looked into his midnight eyes and saw everything she'd never dared hope for: strength without cruelty, protection without possession, love without conditions. Yes, she breathed. God help me, yes. Thunder Walker's smile could have lit the entire valley. In one smooth motion, he swept her into his arms, spinning her round until she laughed with pure joy. Then you're not going anywhere, he declared, setting her down but keeping her close. Winona has already spoken to the tribal council. If you're willing, we can be married in the old way, bound by vows that even the white man's law cannot break. Are you asking me to marry you? Thunder Walker, his grin was answer enough, but he spoke the words anyway. Tachua, brave heart, woman who chose love over safety and honor over ease, will you be my wife, my partner, my heart walking beside me for all the days the Great Spirit grants us? She rose on her toes to press her lips to his, tasting promise and future and home. Yes, she whispered against his mouth. Yes, always yes, above them. The sacred valley stretched toward endless sky, and the wind through the cottonwoods sang of love that conquers fear, courage that overcomes adversity, and hearts brave enough to choose their own destiny. In the months that followed, federal marshals would indeed come looking for Lysandra Whitmore, banker's daughter and presumed accomplice, but they would find no trace of her in the hidden valley, for that woman had died the day she chose to trust a Comanche warrior with her life and her heart. In her place lived Tachua, beloved wife of Thunder Walker, keeper of ancient traditions and mother to children who